Alright, since I already have the camera up, the next short story collection I'm going to be reading is How Are You Going to Save Yourself by J.M. Holmes. Now, I wasn't exactly sure if this is a short story. So, we're gonna go from there, but after each and every single story, I'm putting that in quotation marks, I'll let you guys know what I think of each and every single one, and then at the end, I'll tie it all together and let you guys know what I think of the whole thing overall. Or my camera rudely overheats on me. First short story deals with Geo, and they're basically rolling up some joints and smoking, and they're talking about how many white women they have been with. So there's that. I really like this. Now, I'm gonna tell you why I like this. Now, the one thing that I really enjoyed about this first short story is that there is this voice to it, and the way it's written, I love it. It's written. I feel like it's written in this hip hop tone. Like I'm hearing hip hop, which is or like rap in my head, which is really weird. They speak in a way that a lot of people speak these days, and yeah, it's really I really liked it. This introduction, if this is how the rest of the collections, the stories are gonna go, I think it'd be really. I'm already interested in it. Man, yeah, it's written really. Don't judge me on my reading out loud. But yeah, it is. I'm finna. See, look, I'm finna touch every continent, Dub said. White's not a continent, Rolls said. You know what I mean. I know you never won a geography bee. See, like, just from that first page, yeah, I really like. Alright, I just finished reading the second short story. Okay, so it's all connected. It's going to be anyways, because this second short story called The Legend of Lonnie Lion, it's about the main character Geo. So there seems to be four characters here, and I don't I don't know. I don't. The thing is, I don't know what to say because it's very different. It has a voice. Well, to me, it sounded different from the first short story, which the first short story had this really strong type of writing. It seemed very like hip hoppy to me. Like it had this beat to it that I was like, oh, this is great. The second one seems very different. I want to hold off on some of my reservations. Just finished reading the short story Be Good to Me. So I'm gonna consider this a short story collection just because it is short stories combined to make a full-on novel, I guess you could say, because it's not in an order. They just happen to connect within these four boys. So in this one, we followed this guy named Rolls, because he likes photography, which, and I love photography. But I'm gonna be point blank period with this short story. I didn't like it. There's, it's very troubling. First off, this has several scenes with an underage girl. She's a girl. She's a junior high. She's in junior high, and these are college. They're in fucking college, okay? They're in college, and she's in junior high, and the ending. The beginning of this, okay, in the beginning, she tells him no. So, well, in the beginning, they had the situation in the car. They have sex, but I was like, something about this doesn't feel right. And then the end of this, she basically gets gang raped, and it was hard to read, and luckily, and thankfully, Holmes did not describe the whole thing because he cuts out a major portion of it, but I don't know if that'll come back in the rest of the stories. But yeah, so I just said I was like, I don't, and it was weird too. It was written in a way like if I took, okay, I'm gonna put this down, but if I took that as a singular short story by itself without no context from the other stories, it would have been confusing. So first, oh my god, I'm about to go in. It's disappointing in the way of the writing first off too, because the style is nowhere near the really good beginning because the beginning was such a great introduction, and here it's like just your normal writing, and Holmes does something. Oh my god, I really don't like it when writers do this. Is when they use pronouns so much as the subject. It is infuriating because it when there are a million people, when there are like five people in a scene, okay, like when you're writing a part of a thing, like it's confusing. He kept Holmes kept using he did this to her, she did this is how she feels, she this, like it's so much use, like it's repetitive, and it makes me mad as a reader. Okay, I was watching the clip and I misspoke. She is not in junior high, she's a junior in high school, but she's still underage, so that doesn't change the fact. When I approach stories, I want to have an open-mindedness. And I say this because I don't approach stories like I don't expect to see, or I don't expect authors to tell me stories of how I would see things. Okay, and so with that being said, I don't I think I need time to process. This book is really like making me go through it because in the beginning I was like really hot, but now it's just like next short story called Tolls for the Passenger. I thought it's the weakest one so far because it was so it's about Isaac, who is Gio's cousin, and there's this incident where an RV hit his car, so it goes from there. Alright, I just finished reading the short story Kinfolk. It's basically about the group of boys. This is from Gio's perspective, like usual, and it's them like out on the town at night, and them going from like party to party, club to club type of thing. It's just a whole bunch of shenanigans that they get into. This one focuses, I felt as though, like the pressures of your friends. He has the money from his dad finally, and so like it's him keeping an eye on it, and at the end it leads to something, and I was like, that is interesting. That part I really did like, because it's like in college you start to learn more about like your finances and like how you handle finance, so I thought that was pretty cool. The writing was a little bit more varied in this one. I think my favorite part of the whole collection right now is the dialogue. It's written as if this is like how people would talk, and these are people, like I've heard people talk like this, and I wish like even at this point the writing isn't as strong as from the first story, because the first story was, the writing was so good, but I don't, at this point I don't think it's up to that. It's up to that. I just finished reading Outside Tacoma, where Gio and his family and his sister, mom, and then his stepmom basically meet up at the storage unit that their father left behind, that Gio's father left behind. This deals a lot with family and family dynamics and like the legacy that a person leaves behind and like exactly what that means. Just look at these people and they're not likable. I'm gonna put that in quotes because sometimes that's used in a way that is just like because in my opinion not everything has to be likable in that regard. These are obviously flawed people, but I think we're all flawed as humans, and I just really like it. My favorite part is the dialogue. I love the dialogue. The one thing though is I am not liking the writing, like the way that everything else is described, just because it's not as good as the first story, because the first story really set it up, and here it's just not. I just finished reading the short story Everything is Flammable. I was actually at the coffee shop when I finished it. This story is about, it's still from the perspective of Gio. He seems like to be the main character in this whole thing. He's talking about his friend Rai, who is a firefighter, and as a standalone this story actually works effectively because you don't actually need any references to the previous stories to read it by itself. And I do like how we're getting this perspective of Rai. I really like how these characters, they're very flawed, especially Rai, because he's like doing his best for he's trying to do his best for his family and provide a living for them, but just hashtag the struggle. It is just the struggle. That's what it is. It's the struggle. As a collection overall, I'm really liking how I'm seeing these dynamics between these four friends. Alright, I just finished reading the penultimate story on here called Dress Code. This one wasn't that bad actually. It's about L, or Dub, or Lazarus, that's his real name. and we're following him and his girlfriend Simone. And this talks about basically their relationship, but with the title of the short story, it actually has like a double meaning type of thing. As a story on its own, it actually can be just told as a story on its own. You don't really need to know all the other references. Does it help? Yeah, because Dub was a character in that other short story. So yeah, there's that. This is more about like how people portray themselves and society, which was actually really interesting. Especially like Simone, she is studying to be a dentist, and just like these things that she wants to do, but then Dub doesn't is almost like holding her back. For me, I felt like he was holding her back. I felt like he was holding her back. The pressures of the man in the relationship to provide like stability and like to be the man of the house type of thing. Right, so I finished reading the last short story on here called Cookouts. This one wasn't that bad. I just oh my goodness. Okay, so this one is about Gio, like the previous other ones, and this is about him and his family at a cookout, hence the name Cookouts. And what I'm enjoying most about this is the dialogue, obviously, because I always enjoyed the dialogue so far, and I just love the concept of cookouts, and I'm glad that Holmes included that in here. I love cookouts; they're so much fun. I just could always consider them like a party where people just eat, and there's no reason for it, just have fun and eat. And I really did like that. It's a great tool for writers with this event because it can really show the dynamics of a family, kind of like big holiday events in literature. Like it's like a great setting for that. But then we get to the end and I was like, okay. All right, so I'm gonna give my final thoughts on How Are You Going to Save Yourself? Save Yourself by J.M. Holmes. Now, I'm kind of conflicted on this book because I'm gonna give it 2.5-ish stars on Goodreads. There are some fantastic things about it. It's really an example of that in the first short story, which is called What's Wrong With You? What's Wrong With Me? Now, I would say these are short stories, just because you can read them out of order and you still would get the context of the short story by itself. But it would be better to read them as a whole because you get even more out of it. And it has a little bit more of a breathing room in that regard. And what I love most in the whole collection overall is the use of the dialogue. I love the dialogue. This AAVE, yeah, African American vernacular English. I love that. And the first part of the first short story really exemplifies that because it uses it like it really is hip hop, like literary hip hop. That's what I felt like it was. I mean, he even mentions it in the acknowledgement. So I really love that use, and I just really love the dialogue because it really does add something so special to the stories. Now, okay, so I gotta say this out front. This does have some hard topics to read about. I'm not gonna lie. It has a gang rape of a minor in here, and there are some questionable things that the characters do, and I was just like, okay. But I am not. When I approach stores, like I mentioned before, I'm not looking at it through a rose-colored glasses type of thing. Like, I know there are people like that in real life, and the way that the story is told, it's like a vignette of someone's memory type of thing. It's like Gio's memories, and not everything is coherent in that way if you look at it like that. So I'm not gonna knock it off for that because I can see what Holmes is doing in that regard. Just know going into this that my main issue with this is the writing. Because the first short story is so great, and it has this flow to it that is, I was like, oh, this is so good, but it really falters for the rest of the story. After that, it just, for me, it goes down because the use of the pronouns are just, I can't. I literally cannot. Variation, that's what it is. I want variation in the sentence structure, and when your sentence structure keeps constantly just repeating over and over again, me as the reader is it's just I was infuriated with it. Not to and that's not to say Holmes is a awful writer. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not trying to attack him as a person. I just am saying that I just wish there were more sentence structure and sentence variation. Actually, I am really interested to see what he does because it says on here that in his bibliography right here that he is writing a full-on novel, and I would love to see that, because if it follows anything like the first short story on here, then I think that it would be fantastic. Like, just the first short story, it's so good. It really is. It is literary hip hop, and it reminded me so much of like Kendrick Lamar, and like I was just listening to Damn, the album, just a few days ago, and I was like, oh my god, this reminds me so much of that, and I just wish that had more of the rest of the short stories. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts if you read this, because I could see it's a decisive novel. I could see you loving it, I could see you not liking it, because I could see both sides of that. But yeah, so yeah, let me know what you think about it. I really would love to hear where you fall in the spectrum. Until then, I'll see you guys till next time. Bye. So for Black History Month for February, I am reading 2 short stories every single day, and this will be my last collection for this month. And it's American Histories by John Edgar Wideman. So yeah, I always like to let you guys know the next short story collection that I am reading. I've never read anything by Wideman, so we'll see how this goes. I'm also excited that I'll be going back to my normal routine of 1 short story every single day, because making it 2 short stories, it's a challenge. It is a challenge.